This is a clip from the Cannon podcast. To hear the full episode and get access to exclusive benefits, head over to patreon.com/thecannonpod and sign up for just £3 a month.
In terms of that United game, there's a lot of excitement, a lot of nervous people as well. We don't know what to expect in that game. What are you guys thinking going into that? Is that a win that Arsenal are going to have? Or is it going to be one of those games United surprise Arsenal? I'm not sure if they've wanted the Emirates, obviously not against Mikel Arteta, but in a long, long time. So we've got a good record against them. Ten Hag's got a few injuries. There's no Varane. I think he's out for 6 weeks. There's no Luke Shaw as well. They might be going with a back four of Cucurella, Lindelof, Lissandro, and Wan-Bissaka. Maybe the low, I'm not quite sure. So Eddie Nketiah is licking his lips as we speak. He is waiting to cook that defence. So Alex, what would you do for that game? What changes do you think Mikel Arteta needs to make from the game against Fulham to really take it to United? And I think make a potential statement performance to remind the fans that, hang on a minute, don't panic, we're still here.
I've never been so confident about a United game. I've never been so confident. More than you believe.
More than you believe.
I seriously, watching United, firstly, the biggest alarm bell, this isn't United pod, but it's relevant to Arsenal. The biggest alarm bells that I saw from United this season were when Ten Hag said, we aim to be the best transition team in the world. I don't understand why that isn't front page news. So what you're saying is, and not to sound like a X.com commenter, but what you're saying is, realistically, you don't want to control the football. Okay, that's fine. If you don't want to control the football, we will cook you. We may not win in terms of it may well be a situation where we can't put the ball in the back of net or whatever, but we will be getting 65 to 70% of possession against Manchester United. I'm pretty sure. And when you're in that situation, especially against a depleted defence, especially against a team that look low on confidence to me, especially against the midfield, which, unless they make some kind of changes, will presumably be Eriksen, Casemiro and Bruno, I'm not worried. I'm not worried at all. And that's not to say they couldn't do something. I'm sure they could, because it's United, it's the Premier League, there's no easy games. But I've never been so confident in terms of going into the game and going, we are better than them. 100%. We are better than them. So in terms of a lineup, I'd stick with Ramsdale. As I said earlier, I'd go back to the traditional back five from last season with that. I would try out Declan Rice alongside alongside what's his face, Zinchenko in the 3-2. I would. I am also, as George mentioned earlier, slightly concerned about how those dynamics work. But the way we've seen Declan Rice adapt to this team already, I can't see it being completely hamstringing. I would then make the front five Saka, Martinelli, Jesus if he's fit, if not Nketiah. I would bring in Ødegaard, and I would then bring in Trossard. I would have Trossard in the left eight, because I think he could really, really cause them problems, because he's, in terms of the problem with the United defence, I don't see them in terms of agility being anywhere near the top level. All of their, I feel as though all of their centre backs, when you ask difficult physical questions of them, they can't answer them. They can't get back. They can't turn around quick enough. They can't move quick enough. They're all right, but a lot of them I see problems with, especially Lindelof. So I think if you're asking them difficult physical questions, moving them around, I think that could absolutely cook. Oh, and Mudryk, obviously.
Yeah, Mudryk has to start, of course. But the fact that, Fabio Vieira is very good against Fulham. And I know you said this about an environment and stuff like that, but with the level of that performance, it would be a statement to start him in this game. But
I'd love it.
It would
My
be
agenda would be in tatters.
And I don't think fans can really say anything about it. It's one of those games that after that performance, Fabio Vieira, if he starts, fans will be like, you know what, I can see it. I can see Fabio. I can see what he's good at now. Before it was like, he's a bit too small for me. But in terms of tactical changes or tactical setups, George, do you think there's anything that Mikel Arteta needs to change from the game against Man United? Now, we talk about, one thing I saw very often, I think someone mentioned on Twitter as well, is how wide our forwards are in terms of the wide forwards, and they're not really having no overlaps, it's all underlaps inside. So what do you think Mikel needs to change tactically to really maximise and really take it to Ten Hag and pull his pants
down? Listen, I love how confident I feel about United, but it's just one of those games that it never is. You go in, and I'm going to give you all the logic about the tactical changes because I'm going to answer the question, but then at the same token, it's going to be this horrible close game that, we go in and we really should dominate. That's the story most seasons. I think for us, I really take your point about the wingers being far too wide because, again, I put a post out. It's really frustrating to me that we're refusing to pair kind of our ball defeat winger in terms of Bukayo Saka, that consistent overlap to get him inside and closer to goal more often. Martinelli himself, he's also been kept wide quite a bit in these last 2 games, and I feel that we need to give our wingers this superstar freedom, guys. They need a consistent overlap. And whether you have the player wars, like I'm not here to start them, but whether that's a fullback or a central midfielder, we need to be better in terms of getting our wingers closer to goal and getting them closer to goal more frequently as possible. And so for me, I would really encourage us to be a high pressing tactic in this game. I do want us to go back to kind of the community shield tactic of before. I don't think that we're going to be facing, a United team that, for me, will go into a low block, although we may force them to. I think that they don't have the midfield to put their foot on the ball. You analyze that midfield. Alex, when he talks about being the best transition team in the league, he didn't buy a midfielder that he could put himself on the ball. So when I look at it, and then he bought a goalkeeper that is the complete opposite profile. Like Andre Onana is perfect.
He bought a Man City Arsenal goalkeeper for a transition team. What's he doing?
But then didn't have the midfield to supplement it. And between Mason Mount, Casemiro, Eriksen, Bruno, who is going to be there to get their foot on the ball and build up to help them get out? And then you look at the back line with Varane out.
Frankie de Jong.
Frankie de Jong. But then you look at the back line in terms of, Varane's out, Luke Shaw's out. It's probably going to be an Aaron Wan-Bissaka or, Delo. I don't know who's better there for United. I don't watch them well enough there, but it's one of those two. Then it's Maguire, Lissandro, and who is going to play left back? Because Malaysia's injured, Shaw's out.
It might be Rico Henry at this point.
Well, exactly. And so it is a shambolic backline. It's a makeshift backline. And there's one stat that I kind of wanted to read out for you guys in terms of Man United. They are a horrible pressing team, but they're also a team that really does poor in terms of disrupting their opponent's build-up. So there's a really great chart out there by @MarkStats, who's a really great guy. We normally don't plug on the channel, but I know he's a great stats person. He kind of charted every single team in the league, and they looked at kind of opponent goal kick progression on the y-axis, and on the x-axis, it talked about build-up completion, so just passing completion. And Man United sit and wobble around kind of the Wolves, Everton, Burnley area. And so it shows you that they're not a pressing team. They're not a team that like to put their foot on the ball. And so bar the jammy kind of Rashford transition goal if Thomas Partey wants to slip again, what is kind of the method that Manchester United are going to do to really disrupt this Arsenal team? And so I worry about them, but I don't. I want it to be embarrassing. I think it will be. And I hope that in order to make it embarrassing, we need to make sure that we acknowledge balance, and we need to get our wingers closer to goal. We need to get them 1v1. Let's build up back the relationships. The one thing that I like about the Zinchenko edition is it gets back our most dangerous passing combination, Ben White to Bukayo Saka. The fact that we took that away to start the season, in my opinion, has been a big reason why this team hasn't been firing. Ben White is such a unicorn. I think he's been one of the better players to start the season, along with Declan Rice, Eddie, and Saliba. But we need to get that boy into their half. I'm looking at that back line, and I'm just thinking to myself, it's there to be taken. And United's left-hand side is weak, very weak. And so I want to ruthlessly attack it, and I want Lisandro Martinez to be memed for the player that he really is, as opposed to people thinking that he's this kind of high-line defensive monster that can deal with aerial duels. Because I'm telling you right now, you get Bukayo Saka and Ben White isolated out there, Lisandro's flopping. And he flopped last time with Gabriel Jesus, and I think that's an area that I would really look to attack.
Thanks for checking out the Cannon Podcast. To get full episodes and access to exclusive benefits, head over to patreon.com/thecannonpod and sign up for just £3 a month.